In today's video, we're going to talk about global population dynamics, addressing aspects such as the reasons for growth, demographic transition, distribution of the world population, among others. Did you like the topic? Then let's get into the video. Hey guys, how are you? I'm Paolo, geography teacher. As always, it's an honor to have you here with me on GeoLestrada. Our topic today is the dynamics of world population growth. So, without further ado, let's get to the video. Well, from a general perspective, most of human history was characterized by slow population growth. That's because we had high birth rates, but mortality was also very high. This was due to epidemics, wars, and general health issues, right? The development of medicine wasn't very advanced, so a lot of people were born, but many died as well, which resulted in low natural population growth. In fact, it took the world population about 1,650 years to double in size, going from 250 million inhabitants to 500 million. However, what was seen after this period was an increasingly sharp population growth, in which the number of years needed for the population to double in size became smaller and smaller. As you can see in this table here, around 1850 we reached the first billion people, in 1932 billion people, and in 1975 to 4 billion people. So we can see that the biggest population growth in history happened after the 1800s. And that raises the question, why did this happen? Let's talk a little about that now. Well, without a doubt, the biggest milestone of this exponential growth in the world population was the first industrial revolution, which caused a series of structural changes in the general dynamics of how societies were organized. This was mainly because of the major industrial and technological innovations seen during that historical period, creating a favorable environment for significant population growth at that time. So much so that the world population would double during that century. And from that point on, along with the increasingly pronounced modernization, mainly in the areas of agriculture, medicine, and urban networks, we saw increasingly sharp population growth, as I just showed in the table. Alright, we saw that the population grew during this period. But then another question comes up, which is this: what makes a population grow? And about that, we have many explanations. However, there are two indicators that are decisive for this to happen, which are, first of all, net migration, which is the difference between the number of people who enter and the number of people who leave the country. And the second is natural growth, which is the difference between the number of people who are born and the number of people who die. So, if we have a high birth rate but also a high death rate, we will have low population growth. However, if the birth rate remains high while the death rate drops, we will have significant population growth. And from there, we enter what is called the demographic transition, which refers to the changes in population growth patterns, which can result in either an increase in the proportion of young people or elderly people in certain countries. This is what we usually see in pre-industrial agricultural societies, which have high birth rates but also high death rates, resulting in slow natural population growth. However, the onset of industrialization usually brings a change in the overall structure of society. This is because it offers a large number of jobs in the cities, causing people to migrate from rural areas to urban centers. Consequently, there is also an improvement in the urban infrastructure of cities in general, which includes the sanitation system, which is a major factor in reducing the mortality rate, consequently increasing the natural population growth. That's what happened in Brazil, for example, in the 1950s and 1960s, when there was this change in the overall structure of the Brazilian population. And at first, birth rates stayed high and a reduction in mortality, causing the natural population growth to skyrocket. I talk more about this in this video here on Brazilian population dynamics. It's showing up here above in the card, and it's also down here in the video description. However, at first, this change in the general organization of society causes the birth rate to remain high and the mortality rate to drop. In the second stage, the tendency is for the birth rate to also drop, reaching a certain balance and causing the natural population growth to slow down as well. This basically happens because the cost of living in the city is higher due to women entering the job market and also because of personal choices. So, in urban societies, the tendency is for people to have fewer and fewer children. That being said, let's move on to the final part of the video and talk about the distribution of the world's population. But before that, if you want a mind map of this video, as well as the mind maps of all the other videos on the channel, I invite you to check out our Strata Mind Map Kit, which is a kit containing the mind maps of all the videos on the channel and will help you study. Whether you're a middle school student, high school student, teacher, student preparing for college entrance exams, or university student. Go check it out, okay? The link is in the description, and by getting it, you'll be helping a lot with the maintenance of this channel, alright? So let's go. Distribution of the world's population. Currently, the world population has surpassed the 8 billion mark, and as we can see in this graph, the number of people in the world started to grow exponentially around the 1800s, as I already mentioned. However, it was in the 20th and 21st centuries that these numbers grew even faster, reaching 6 billion in 1999 and 7 billion in 2011, and 8 billion in 2022. However, even though this number is very high, the world population is not evenly distributed across the globe, because almost 60% of the world's population is in Asia alone, a number that is mainly driven by India and China, which each have more than 1.5 billion people. Besides Asia, the African continent also stands out, with about 17.9% of the world's population. This distribution can be seen in this cartogram that I'm showing on the screen, where the largest areas also correspond to the largest populations. And I'll give you the video on the screen about Brazilian population dynamics. Make sure to check it out. Also check out our Strata Mind Maps kit. Thank you for staying until the end. Don't forget to like and see you next time. Bye bye!